Hey everyone, it is Friday again. Another AMA. Got the cat joining in the background. Um, Hopefully, the cat will behave and not cause any kind of mischief. I'd like to thank all of you guys for coming in on this Friday. July was a tough month to say the least. But we'll walk through everything that's going on, and hopefully everybody will be able to understand, and I'll be able to show everyone that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. First, Roop, if you could enable your mic, I would like to talk with you directly.
Yeah, of course. Hello.
Okay. Um, so, Roop, I sent you a link to Polar Night, which is a company that does sand battery technology. And you said you tracked down the address and it turned out to be like an apartment or something. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, actually, uh, I went to the address and
Mm-hmm.
it was normal building, normal house in the Finland. So I think they registered their company, in the basically their house using their own address.
Okay. Um, what what do you know about that? I mean, is that like a good sign, a bad sign? Is that normal? Is that abnormal? Like, what is
It's
that?
pretty normal here.
Okay. Okay. And you weren't able to get in touch with anybody directly at that address or anything like that?
Nope,
No.
nope.
Okay.
I was asking my friends and everyone. He said everyone really knows them, but I think they're a little bit older than me, so like 10 years older than me, so I don't have any connection to get touched with them.
Okay. Well, I've done a lot of deep dive research into thermal technology, and although thermal storage of energy is extremely efficient and extremely cheap, it is not good for if your end use is going to be electrons. So if your end use is going to be electricity, it is not an ideal storage medium. Um, it's great if you want to store heat and then use that heat for manufacturing thermoplastics, things like that. Um, it turns out that if you try to take that heat energy and convert it back into electrons, it loses. It's a very lossy process, right? So about 30% is what my math is telling me can be recaptured. So 70% of the thermal energy stored would just be heat loss. It would, just in the process of converting back into electricity. And the easiest way that I can explain it to a lay person who doesn't know, much about these things or the science or anything behind it is if we imagine a glass of water and we take the electrons and we drip an ink drop into the glass of water. The ink goes 100% efficiently into the water. But when we try to just capture that ink back out of the water, it's a very complex process. So you guys can kind of get the idea of how there's loss in trying to exchange, back into electricity, and how there's complexity in that. And ultimately, what I determined is we would have to use a traditional method, which would be a steam turbine. It's what most power plants operate off of. And these are machines, and they're complicated machines running under very high pressures and things like that. And it just occurred to me that, it would require full time on site staff that would have to be highly skilled and trained because it is a machine that's always turning. It would need to be shut down periodically and maintained and stuff like that. And I just started running all that, and it just didn't make sense anymore. So that's when I went back to looking at battery storage, just harvesting it as electrons from the photovoltaic cells and then storing it as electrons and then using it again as electrons. And it turns out that the lithium ion technology battery market is just in a crazy heat of competition right now. And I came to find out that the largest battery manufacturer in the world, 80% of the market is manufactured by one company in China, and that is BYD. And I'm in the process of reaching out directly to BYD to find out their newest battery cost. They have a new battery out that has extreme energy density in a 20-foot container size, 6.4 megawatts of energy can be stored. And that's, if you guys don't know much about power, that's a lot of power. That's a very, very powerful battery. It would keep your phone running for many lifetimes. But if we can get that battery cost down to a reasonable price, let me go ahead and admit Sky here. If we can get that battery cost down to a reasonable price, then things are still very feasible with doing, photovoltaic solar energy. Another thing that I wanted to let you guys know about is, obviously I'm just one person. And as one person, I can only do so many things in one day. So I've already reached out to, hi, Winston. Winston, thanks for coming, but please listen to what I have to say. I've already reached out to some bigger companies that I've known for many years in the United States, and we're in the talks of doing a partnership. And what this is going to mean is that now I'm going to have a huge team of a company behind me while I spearhead these projects, and I can delegate tasks out. So I can say, so-and-so, you fly to this manufacturer on Thursday, get me somebody to talk to. So-and-so, you fly there, I can start delegating a team of people out to make these connections, to make these contacts that we need to pull it off. One of the most promising things that we have at the moment is the iron air technology. And I don't know if I went over that with you guys in the last AMA. Did I go over that, Roop? I can't remember.
Yeah, I think you little bit talked about it.
Okay, so the advantage that the iron air battery storage gives us is it is supposed to be 10% the cost of lithium. So if I go to chase down the lithium ion battery manufacturers and that turns out to be a dead end, we can't get the price reduced to something reasonable. I have already got guys on the ground that are chasing this air iron technology. All the lingos and everything get crazy after a while, but they're chasing that down to get us a contact with the direct manufacturer of that technology, and that should definitely work. So when I was speaking to my colleagues in the industry and I was explaining to them, this is what I've discovered with lithium ion and this is what we can do, they were kind of nodding their heads like, okay, there is a nexus there. If we amortize all the infrastructure over a 20-year cost, we can see that there's a nexus where you get a really good power rate over the 20 years. And then when I explained the iron air technology and I showed them that it just reduced that, 90%, that's when their eyes popped wide open. They said, give us a week. We're going to go to the manufacturer. We're going to talk to these guys. So hopefully in a week, I'll have some really good news with you guys and also be able to, introduce a partnership structure that's going to be mutually beneficial. They see my value as kind of the scientist or the engineer who can do the deep dive in the technology and kind of put together the big picture. But as one human being, as just one person with only 24 hours in one day, there's only so many emails I can send out. There's only so many phone calls that I can make. There's only so many meetings that I can attend. And so, having a team behind me would also bring a great value to me and being able to be a lot more effective and be able to do a lot more things simultaneously than just one person can do. So where does that bring us, with Monopoly and everything that's going on with that? Let me share with you guys. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see here. I'm going to share the window, I think is going to be the best thing here. Let me know if you guys can all see this. And
Yeah, it's working.
okay, fantastic. And I'll go ahead in the video. So if you guys want to watch this later on YouTube, in the video, it should be even clearer. So last month I predicted that difficulty would drop, and it did. If we look here at the very end of this chart, we can see that it went to an all-time high and then it dropped down. And now mysteriously and suddenly, it is now at a new all-time high. And this is absolutely murdering us. And the question we have to ask is, how is this even possible? If Bitcoin price, we look at the current Bitcoin price, it's like what, 63,000, something like that. It's not at a price point that it's really profitable or even feasible to mine, especially if you have like a nominal power rate of 5 cents or 4 cents or something like that, which is what the big industry leaders, riots, the marathons, they're all in the 3.5, 4 cent range. So what's going on? How is this possible that we could have more hash rate on the network now with Bitcoin price down? And we know power prices really haven't changed significantly. These power contracts that they lock in, they don't renegotiate it every year. They buy 10 years worth of power, 20 years worth of power, and they lock it in. So what's happened is the technology. Bitmain has released just extremely efficient ASICs. I mean, things that even surprise me. So if we look at historically, right, Bitmain started off, I guess their first main miner was the S9 series. It actually goes all the way back to the S2 and the S3 and all that stuff. But the S9, that was kind of the first workhorse in the mining industry. And the S9 mined at about 100 watts per terahash, which is crazy in today's terms. When you think about how much power that is and how little terahash you get. And if we look at the newest technology that Bitmain has coming out, and I'll see if I can fire up the Bitmain website. I'll go to Bitmain Antminer. Go to bitmain.com. And you guys got to also understand that what they show on their website is not actually, like the true inventory of what they have in stock. But we can see that things have progressed from 100 watts per terahash all the way down to 16 watts per terahash. And I believe that they actually have a new miner on the horizon where they're going to break the 10 watt per terahash barrier. So if you look at the S21 Hydro, this thing is rated
I think there was one better.
Okay, there's better?
Yeah, there's also be better, like 13.
Yeah, so yes,
Currently.
I've heard that the 13 is there, and I've heard that some companies are actually breaking the 10 watt per terahash barrier. And so when I look at the mining difficulty skyrocketing like this, that is a telltale sign to me that profoundly new technology, profoundly more efficient, has been released on the market. And not only has it been released on the market, it's actually been plugged in and it's being used to mine. Right? So if we look at that in comparison with the miners that we bought, first of all, we bought miners that were supposed to be 26 watts per terahash. And when I do the real world math, real world, we're doing 31 watts per terahash. And let me show you how that kind of breaks down. We go to the trusty A6Z mining profit calculator. And I'll try to zoom in here a little bit so maybe you guys can see things a little bit bigger. Can everybody see that? So, just as default, I need to update this whole list of miners that's on our website. But as default, I chose the M50 114. We got the 118 terahash. In reality, we're doing about 121 terahash because I've been updating the firmware of the WhatsMiners. And as I update it, they get a better hash rate, right? And that's giving us a power usage of 3,752 watts per machine. So if we take 3,752 watts per machine, we divide it by 121, we're getting 31 watts per terahash, all right? Now, 31 watts compared to 16, all right? We look at Bitmain, 16 watts per terahash. That's a 50% increase, over 50%, right? Especially if you do underclocking and you put other firmwares and things like that. That's a 50% improvement. So that means that somebody can have double the power costs that we have and still mine. So they can be in that 4 cent range and they can still mine at the same profitability that we're mining with our WhatsMiners because we're using double the power and getting half the hash rate. and it's killing us. It's literally killing us. If we look at all the other things, the block reward, the difficulty increase, the current Bitcoin pricing, before the 30%, right? So you guys get 70%. Me in running operations and things like that, it's only generating, those 60 miners are only generating $201 profit per day, right? And when we factor in the power costs, you know, we look at our monthly power costs, 3,225. If we look at the Bitcoin payouts, it's pretty much like right on what we're paying. We look at the Bitcoin output. This is the output, the daily output. Yesterday we got 0.0050067. We look at the calculator. Let's see here. It should be showing like an, yeah, 0.0050860. So all the numbers are adding up. It's just killing us that this new technology has come online and it's adding more hash rate to the network than ever before. And we have to do something about that, because we're at a place now where after the 30% and after the electric costs, you guys are basically going to make nothing. Monopoly is basically, it's not going to make anything per month. It won't go in the negative, I think, but it's basically going to be in a place where you guys are, you know, we're doing a bunch of something for nothing. And so what I want to propose to everybody in the group is that we pause, because this happened with the S9s. When the S17 series and there was a couple of other things in between the S9s and the S17s, but the S17s were the next generation. Those things really started hurting the network. And then the S19s came out, which were the new workhorse. It killed S9s. I mean, people had hundreds of thousands of S9s, and they had to unplug them and they had to turn them off. And they had to, you know, unplug them and turn them off for 6 to maybe even 8 months. And then at the end of the last bull run, I sold $1.8 million for the S9s because people were so desperate to get their hands on miners. And I think we're in a similar situation now, where the smartest move is for us to unplug, let Roop and Cobra use the power, because they're using much more efficient machines, and there's a profit that can be made out of those machines, much more than what Monopoly. Meanwhile, while the M50s sit, I'll recondition them, I'll get them boxed up, I'll get them looking nice, and in about 6 months or so, when the market booms and everybody and their mama on eBay wants machines, that's when we need to liquidate them, because that's when we're going to get the greatest return out of them. But right now, with the machines we have, and it's nobody's fault. I mean, even if we got the promised, 28 watts per terahash or 26 watts per terahash, we'd still be struggling. What I couldn't foresee, or what anybody couldn't foresee, is Bitmain releasing this monster. Literally doubling the efficiency in one generation move. Like, Bitmain has never done that. Like, they've always done it very incrementally. They've never just gone from S19 to S21, half the power is being used. Like, that was something that nobody could see. Obviously, I heard rumors about it, but I've been hearing rumors about these things, since I got in this business. I heard about guys, that were able to get S9s down to 30 watts a terahash and things like that. But you can't. And also, Bitmain has a huge history of releasing junk equipment. But so far, all the feedback in my industry that I'm getting about these S21s, especially the Hydros, is that they're tanks, like the S19 series. They're all very reliable. They're all very, solid machines. Nobody's complaining about a bunch of dead machines being delivered when they get their orders or anything like that. So that puts us in a place where the smartest move, guys, is to use the power for something that can actually make money, instead of us just soaking it all up and then breaking even every month. That's my professional opinion. Now, when we got into this, right, and it says it in the white paper, the first 2 years, that's monopoly control. That's not my decision to make. After the 2 years, then I can start making decisions for you guys. But in that first 2 years, you guys, as the monopoly group, have the power to make the decision. So I want you guys to think about it carefully. We can continue to kind of drive these miners into the ground and break even or struggle to break even every month, or we can unplug them, recondition them, get them ready for market, get them ready for that part of that refresh period that I also described in the white paper, and be smart and use the power for a project that has much more efficient machines that can actually make a reasonable profit for you guys, right? And it may get to a situation, guys, where we just put it on pause. And in 2 months or 3 months, I get the solar up and running, and then I can siphon off the solar and basically give you guys free power. And at free power, then we don't have to worry about a lot of things. It just, everything becomes pure profit. But the way things are running now, and the way the numbers are all adding up now, because of these new, more efficient machines that are on the market, it's just not making sense to continue running. Like, ultimately, this is Monopoly's project. It's not mine. But my professional advice, what I've seen historically in these situations, the smartest move is unplug, get them in good shape, and then wait for the crazy boom of the market and sell them and make a ton of money. I mean, that's what everybody did with the S9s. That's what I would recommend doing for these machines. Don't, because they're machines. The more you push them, the more you work them, the more they're going to break, the more power supplies are going to burn. It's just, we've got 60 good running machines right now. Why run them as hard as you can for nothing? It doesn't make sense to me. The smartest thing, put the project on pause. Not going to finish the project, not going to quit the project. We're going to put the project on pause. We're going to move in Cobra. They're going to make profit. Everybody's going to be happy again. Everybody's going to be making more Bitcoin. And we're not going to be, dragging our machines or pushing our machines to basically do nothing. There's just no sense in stressing that out. We're going to be preserving our machines and preserving the value of those machines. All right. So now that I've kind of unleashed that chunk of news, I'd like to open the floor to anybody and just kind of get your 2 cents or get your thoughts about doing that, and maybe answer any questions that anybody might have. Aaron, Max, Roop, Tempa.
Yeah, I mean, I have some money in Monopoly too, so in my mind, this is more a long-term plan, because like you said, this machines is like so good if you think about it in long term. And currently we don't have that good machines in the farm, and I fully agree with everything. Even because of this, all the dealers what have been happening in the Dubai and everything.
Yeah, that's another thing too, is if we get hit with another fine, I can't eat that. I mean, I ate the first one, but I can't eat that again. That's not going to make business sense for me. I'm not going to get in a situation where I'm in a business where I'm losing money every month. Another thing to look at too, guys, is to date, and this is again factoring a low Bitcoin price of 62,000 or 63,000. There's been a 65% return, right? So to date, already the Monopoly project, and that's including, me taking my payments and things like that. So there's been a 65% ROI. If the price of Bitcoin doubles from here, I mean, you guys have already ROI'd, you've already made all your money back. The smart thing, in my opinion, is, give the machines a rest, put more profitable machines in its place, and make money. Because at the end of the day, that's what Bitcoin mining is. It's turning power into money, or turning power into crypto asset that's worth money. But right now, with current Bitcoin pricing, with current Bitcoin difficulty, doesn't make sense. It's going to be a zero-sum game. It's going to break even, or you guys might make $10 or $5 a month or something along those lines, but it's not going to be worth the effort that's put into maintaining the operation. And I think you guys, you deserve the best mining experience possible. And my professional advice: retire the machines. Gives us time to deep clean them. Get any kinks that fans that need to be replaced in the power supplies. any kind of control boards that need to be updated, and gets us in that position so where either Bitcoin price goes to where it's extremely profitable again, I get these solar farm operations up and we can siphon off of that. I mean, there's lots of options that we can have instead of just being forced into this one narrow situation that we're in. And as I explained to you guys from the very beginning, hopefully you got this, is, you know, being dynamic and flexible and being able to change and having a plan B and a plan C and a plan D. That's how you succeed in this industry. You're not going to succeed in this industry if you just try to, you know, force, you know, in one narrow corridor of operations, and that's the only thing you can possibly do. That will definitely drive you to a dead end road, and I don't want any of you guys to go there. And you guys have seen other projects fail because that narrow corridor that they were always trying to fit into.
I'll make a comment. I'm at work, so I have to be a little bit careful here.
Sure.
But one, I just want to thank you, Ethan, so much for all the work and effort you made to take a bad situation and finding a way to move forward. So thank you so much for that. I'm for the liquidation idea. I think it's a good idea given the situation you outlined. But I'm heavily invested in Cobra X, so having those miners turned on is an exciting prospect for me. But
Okay.
I'm sure monopoly only holders might feel a little ambivalence about that. But I think if you explain well that they've in many ways they've already gained back what they invested
Sure.
through the increased rise of Bitcoin pricing, and that there'd be a significant payout for the selling of the miners, that would actually probably incentivize people. I'm just wondering if people who didn't invest in Cobra X, is there any space for them to invest later now that we might liquidate monopoly and open up the Cobra X mining? I'm not asking for myself because I pretty much maxed out in my investment in Cobra X already.
Okay.
But I'm wondering if people might want to, especially the monopoly only holders. I'm not sure if that's even possible.
Well, first, I'd like to make extremely clear is that we are not in a liquidation phase of the Bitcoin cycle, the market cycle. So what I'm proposing is that we don't actually liquidate the miners immediately, is that we just put them on pause, we recondition them, and we prepare them for what is to come. And what is possible to come is A, I can find another site that has power. B, I can siphon them off of these existing solar operations that I'm doing build outs on. And C is the market could just boom over the next 6 months, and we might get to a place where I said, okay, now community, you know, we've got a really good return on our investment. Let's consider liquidation, and then, you know, maybe doing a refresh or something like that. It's become abundantly clear to me that the industry is moving towards hydro. So any kind of liquidation phase or anything like that, we need to look into, you know, what it's going to cost to refresh into the hydro infrastructure. And fortunately, I've designed my own custom hydro systems. Did I share any pictures with you guys of that, any of that stuff, or I don't know if I've been doing so many things simultaneously. It's kind of hard to keep track of who knows what, or, you know, who I've shared what with. Let's see. Aaron's got a queue here. Let's see. Yeah, let's see. Okay, Aaron, it looks like you've just kind of raised your hand for a question. Okay, and it's a takeaway. But the hydro technology, I'm working directly with the manufacturer, and I've designed my own system, basically. Design my own hydro system, and I'm able to get it for a really good price. So if we do migrate into hydro, I'm really excited to do that and use my technology. I've designed my own. Let me see if I can show you guys. Well, no, I've got a non-disclosure agreement. I'll have to check with my non-disclosure agreements, but yeah, I'll see what I can share with you guys in the group after the AMA. But it's very exciting technology for me to show to everyone. All right, it looks like we have a new person joining with us. Hi. So yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's nothing personal. It's just trying to do good business, and I want to iterate just as clearly as possible. We're not at the liquidation phase. All right, we're going to put a pause, and we're going to use the power wisely for a project that can actually turn a profit. Like there's no sense business wise for me that I can see to continue running and breaking even, right? We need to get the more efficient miners in. The more efficient miners are going to be able to turn a greater profit. Interestingly enough, if we do, I had two sites involved for the Monopoly project, and if we look at site one, which had the What's miners, and site two, which I had the S19K Pros on, site two was actually using fewer miners and had a lower amount of power. So if we look at the power that comes from transformers, right, we have 400 amp cables that come up from a 500 kVA, half a megawatt transformer. And the other site just had like 180 kVA and 300 amp cables. And with that 180 kVA, we were actually generating more terahash than we were at the other site. And that had more power. And so it just seems evidently clear to me that that's the smart move. And again, I'm going to put it in your hands. We'll do a vote as soon as this AMA is over, and the ayes will have it. I know a lot of you guys are already invested in Cobra, so you're 100%. But I want to hear everybody's thoughts about this. At the end of the day, we're just saving ourselves a bunch of blood, sweat, and tears, right? There's no sense in running miners for 2 or 3 months and breaking even, right? There's no sense in putting that wear damage on them just to break even. So the smartest thing is just put it on pause and then get it ready for the next step. And what is the next step? The next step is, more power coming online, solar projects, or the market turning around and us considering a liquidation phase. Is that?
Thanks, Stephen. That's clear. I appreciate the clarity. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. And yeah. Gosh darn it.
If we vote to move forward with the pausing of the monopoly miners, could you give and we wouldn't lock you into it, but just a rough guesstimate on the timeline for putting up the Cobra X miners?
Cobra X miners are about 2 kilometers away from the site, so I just need to get a truck and move all the equipment there. Teardown happens, it's really hot out there, guys. And when I had to decommission site 2 this month, well, first of all, I'd like to say July was brutal. It was like record-breaking brutal. The temperatures are actually cooler now in August than they were in July, and we had this wave of humidity that happened to where we couldn't run for a week because the air was so saturated with moisture as the cooling curtains couldn't evaporate to cool the air. So it was just brutal and crazy extreme weather. All the weather's been extreme for the past 6 months. I've never seen Dubai like this, and everybody's been remarking about it. But I would say 3-4 days tops. I've got to decommission.
Okay, great. That's great to hear that could move that fast. Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, give me a day and a half to decommission what's existing, and maybe a day and a half to put up the new stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'll probably do it in 3 days, but I'll probably do it faster than 3 days because I always move at the speed of light. But yeah, I want to give myself a little bit of a break, and yeah, I think 3 days. Okay, let's see. I don't understand the raised hands feature. So,
Ethan, I just want to ask a question real quick.
Sure, Aaron, go ahead.
Does it make sense at this point to flip? And this is just the monopoly side, I guess. Does it make sense to flip the M50s into S21s at this point, or is that kind of off the table?
Right now, because I mean, we'd be basically selling to somebody in the same boat. Like even at a 2 cent power cost, they would be breaking even. So until the price of Bitcoin goes up to 100K, I wouldn't sell them. I'd hold on to them until the price of Bitcoin goes to 100K plus. You know, that's when people are going to be able to see like they can make a return on it and things like that. I think the smartest move now is to just give them a vacation, give them a little TLC, some love, pampering. I bought a warehouse, guys. I want to share that with you guys. So, you know, I can keep them in storage. The rent's been paid for a whole year, so we don't have to worry about any of those expenses and things like that. And just, you know, like I said, get the market ready for whatever the market brings. So if we can find more cheap power, then, you know, they're good as new to start with that, you know, cheap power. If we can siphon them off of the solar power that I've got with these solar farms, because they're not going to need exactly, you know, all the power that's going to be stored. So there's going to be some power reserves that we can snatch off of there pretty much for free. And if we can get the free power, that would be ideal, because then we really don't have to worry about Bitcoin, you know, price or anything like that. And you know, like the biggest killer for you guys is I have to wait, you know, for 10 days plus of mining now. When the electric bill comes in, I have to wait for these miners to mine 10 or more days before there's enough Bitcoin mined that I can exchange that to pay the power bill. And so it's getting kind of a little bit nervous on my end, you know, like, and then so you guys are only getting, you know, the remainder. And this month's bill is going to be less because we had to shut down because of the humidity and things like that. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's getting in a place where the smart move is to give them a break until we find the next smart move. You know, and there's no sense in letting that existing power that we have at that site, you know, like not be utilized with more efficient miners. Like it just seems like a win-win scenario where, you know, we put the machines on break, give them a vacation, find out the next move for them, get Cobra in and get that project up and running and making more money than what Monopoly would do. Hopefully that answered your question. But, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be a vote, and it's going to be a majority vote, just like the white paper. I know that we all have to be flexible and dynamic, but like I said, my job here with Monopoly is to give you guys the best advice. You know, like if we were all amateurs, this would be a rug for everybody. Like, you know, Ethan would disappear, Sakib would disappear, and you guys would just be like, what happened? You know, like, yeah, you know, the website's down. This is not going to be a rug. There are moves left on the board. And like I said, this has happened previously in the industry. So we do have kind of a playbook that we can follow. And the playbook that the S9s did is that they all unplugged for about 6 months until the price of Bitcoin went skyrocketing through the roof. And then people were buying them like hotcakes all over again. When we get there, that's when we need to look at the cost of hydro and, you know, what is a wise move when we're in that place. I can't tell you what it is because I don't know what it's going to be. You know, I can tell you possibilities, and ideally what we'd want to do is we'd want to move into hydro and a hydro technology. So after we liquidate, most likely what I would recommend, and by that time I will have hydro mining sites up and running. So literally there will be excess infrastructure that we can just put hydro miners, you know, the blades into, and, you know, plug in the water and stuff like that and get them going. So, but I'm not going to be able to tell you that until we actually get to that place, right? So, smart move, put things on pause, and then wait for the next smart move. Like, I can't tell you what that is psychically before we get there.
Yeah, I know actually some people who actually is buying miners in the bear market, and then they just wait and wait. They're not even mining it. Then they just flip them easily.
Yeah, I mean,
Like, you know,
yeah, the miners are still there, guys. You know, they'll be safe in my warehouse. If you guys want to come and visit them, if you want to help with the reconditioning process, more than happy to have you guys there. I've already bought new fans for them, so and new grills so they can look nice and pretty and you know, at least be ready for the next step. But I don't think I don't feel like we're there. There's too many things that are coming to fruition for me to say it's time to throw in the towel, guys. Let's liquidate. Well, let me put it this way: that would be the easy way out. That would be the easy way out for me. But I'm not a quitter, right? I don't take the easy way out. Right? So a smart thing to do is put this on pause. Let's put the power to good use with Cobra, and get that project making money for everybody. Nobody's going to be losing money in Monopoly. Everything's just going to be on pause. You're not going to be paying any power bills, or any kind of operational expenses or anything like that. And when the time is right, we'll strike. When the opportunity comes back, I'll do an AMA with you guys and I'll explain, this is what we've got. This is the situation. And if it's within that 2-year window, you guys get a vote on it, and we'll move forward. Hopefully that makes good sense to everybody. All right, yeah. So one of the things that I love about the Monopoly project is, you guys are like more informed. Like, you're looking at the bigger picture of things. You're not just going to a simple calculator and saying, "Oh, this new." Let's just for fun. Let's go to asicminervalue.com. Because this is, let's go to ASIC miner value. Every day, that's how I know the bull run is around the corner. Look at this, AL1 Pro. Does anybody even know what it's? Okay, it's a Blake 3 miner. It's making $589.63 per day. Look at this. It's nuts. Right? You know how many people and their grandmas are going to call me and say, "Oh, can you get one of these AL1 Blake miners? It's making $600 a day. I can run that off my electricity." By the time these guys get these miners in hand, they will be okay. And I did this before early in the project, right? What people don't look at when they look at these miners, $589 a day, that's crazy for one miner, right? But what they don't look like at is the graveyard. Let's go to the bottom here, right? Let's go to all the unprofitable miners, right? And look at this. We got a Z9, we got a Kadena, an Equihash. Remember when Kadena was a big thing, guys? We've got X11s. We've got, let's see, here's a Blake 2B, all right? The Obelisk SC1. Geez, man, it's been a long time. We've got the B29. I remember when the B29s were making $500 a day. As a matter of fact, my first big order of miners was from the Dragon Mint company. That's how I know Scott offered and all that stuff. And I ordered the Bitcoin miners from them. And then right after I ordered the Bitcoin miners, they came out with the B29s that were making $500 a day. And I was begging them. I was like, I'll take a quarter of my order. Like, I don't want all 70 of these Bitcoin miners. I will just take, give me 10 of these B29s. Just exchange my order. You don't even have to send me any money back or anything. Give me 10 of these B29s. That's how crazy I was, guys, way back in the day. And that's a Blake miner too. And look at that. Look at the graveyard, right? The graveyard is full of, here's a G2. Here's a Handshake. Here's another Kadena. Here's a Lira. Yeah, look at all these altcoins that the graveyard, and it just goes on and on and on and on and on, that the graveyard is full of, guys. Don't fall for it. Yeah, here's another Blake, Strong U. Oh, yeah, I remember the Strong U in 2018. I mean, yeah, so you look at this, and it's very, very, very misleading. It's very deceiving. And everybody does, all the amateurs, they go to this website, and they're like, I saw a YouTube video. I can make $589. Even if I just make half of that, that's $250 a day. That's still great money. You don't make that. By the time you get it in hand, it'll drop down to nothing. You know, you'll be lucky if it's a nice paperweight. Even the script miners are struggling right now. You guys are going to see. So this is actually a really good sign to me because always the altcoin miners will lead Bitcoin. So you'll get these altcoin miners that do like just crazy numbers in a day, which nobody ever has, by the way. You know, only the manufacturer has it, and when they release it and they get put in the wild, like the difficulty skyrockets and the market price drops like a stone. But it's always preceded by these altcoin miners that people start going crazy about. And then what happens is Bitcoin becomes king again. And everybody, you know, gets into Bitcoin mining. So this is actually a good sign. I like seeing these things happen in the market because it tells me the bull is very close. The bull market is very close. And another thing to mention too is at the mining conference, the Bitcoin mining conference in Nashville that just happened last week, there are a few new manufacturers that are coming to market with their own new technology that is doing like head-to-head competition with Bitmain. So it'll be very interesting to see how all that plays out. And previously what's happened is Bitmain, you know, basically comes out with the workhorse and they dominate the market. And what happens is Bitmain sets the price, right? So when the S9s came out, they were $100 per terahash. And when the S19s came out, I think they were doing them at like, you know, $30, $40 per terahash because they didn't have any competition, right? And what's happened is then the other Chinese manufacturers will just kind of fall in line with that, right? So they'll be like, okay, Bitmain's doing this for $40 a terahash. We'll do ours for, you know, 39.5 or, you know, something. They'll be very close to that. But this cycle is going to be very different because we have some big manufacturers and North American manufacturers at that. And I think there's going to be a price war that we've never seen in this industry because Bitmain's going to try to keep, you know, being the king. And I think these other companies are going to beat them down in price. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out. But yeah, I can talk forever about this stuff, guys, as you can tell. And it looks like we're kind of nearing the end of the AMA. And so I just wanted, you know, to make sure that anybody that had a question or anything that you know, they'd like to say, I'd like, you know, for their voice to be heard. And if nobody's got anything to say, that's okay too. I hope everybody's having a great week and has a great weekend. I will look through my non-disclosure agreements and see what I can share with you guys. Okay, let's see. Cameron wants to join. Hey, Cameron, welcome. I was just kind of closing things up here and giving everybody an opportunity to ask any questions or to say their mind. So if you've got something to say, Cameron, would love to hear you out. But, you know, just to summarize things really briefly, really quickly, business-wise, because of the new technology that's come out, it is destroying the profitability of the Monopoly project. My professional advice and what I'm going to put to a vote with the Monopoly community is that we don't burn out miners just to break even on power costs and expenses, that we give those miners a break, give them a pause, give them a vacation, allow me the opportunity to recondition them and prepare them for the next step. It may be liquidation. I don't do the liquidation until Bitcoin goes crazy. When Bitcoin goes to the 300, 400K, that's when I'm going to say, let's liquidate. But we're going to bide our time until we either have more power available that's feasible to use, or I get these solar projects up and running with the solar power that we can just siphon off of. Because it's such a, compared to the scale and the size of these solar projects that I'm doing, they're like 5 megawatts. So, you know, like 200 kilowatt hours or something like that won't even be noticed. That won't even register. But like I said, the smart move is to, you know, use the power in a way that makes money or, you know, makes the most benefit for everybody. And right now that is the Cobra project with the S19K Pros. Hopefully. Okay, so we've got Cameron.
Ethan, could I ask just a quick follow-up
Sure,
question?
sure.
So you mentioned putting the monopoly miners on pause for about 6 months or so.
It could be.
Um,
It could
okay.
be. It
But
could. Yeah.
if the solar panels go up sooner, that kind of thing, then we could look at whether it'd be best to turn them back on or not. What would be the minimum amount of time you think roughly for the solar panels to try to get up and running, and the possibility of looking
I,
at starting monopoly can be reconsidered?
you know, you don't know what you don't know until you know it. So I can only tell you what the construction company has told me, and they said they can have panels online in 100 days.
Okay, great. So that's about 3.5 months or so. But
Yeah,
okay, yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Another thing too, and this would be really cool, is we could just run the machines like purely off of solar, like any kind of excess solar that was produced by the plant by the panels. We could just run them during the daytime and just soak up that excess power, and not even like worry about building out the infrastructure to run them 24/7 and things like that, and connect them to the battery. So lots of interesting things we could do. But if we were to do something like that, obviously keep in mind, guys, that the name of the game would be basically make the power for free. So the project wouldn't have to worry about, that 10 days worth of mining every month just to pay the power bill. Like we wouldn't even have to worry about it. Everything that the miners generate, minus the 30% off the white paper, you guys get to keep. You don't have to worry about the power costs or anything like that. So that's the future where I'm trying that I see is the most plausible. Now, again, I don't know the future, so there may be another farm that opens up, that we can just immediately move into, and it still doesn't make sense to me to burn the miners out just to break even. But that would be probably a scenario, guys, where I would be talking about aftermarket firmware and how we could. One of the weird things about WhatsMiner is there is not much aftermarket firmware for WhatsMiners. Like I can't find anything reliable. So if any of you guys can pull up a YouTube video, or let's what is this, like crowd think this? If any of you guys find any of that information, please do share it with me, because I'm not coming up with anything consistent or reliable that we can put in to make these machines either A, more efficient, or overclock them. Now, the S19K Pros, man, the Vanish software and those things, that thing is badass. Well, first of all, true story, guys. Just the factory firmware on the S19K Pros, like I got 115 Ts, and there's a setting in there, right? So there's, the normal setting, 115 terahash, and then there's, it was called like high power or something like that. And since it's a factory firmware, I'm not going to break anything by clicking on the high power. For shits and giggles, I clicked on the high power. That motherfucker tuned to 148 terahash. It went from 115 to 148 terahash, and it only used like 200 watts more power. And I was just like, holy shit. And I would have loved to have overclocked them even more, but that was at site 2. Remember when I was talking about where we only had the 300 amps power supply? So, I mean, we were getting more terahash at that site, but we were maxed out on the power. Now, the Monopoly 1 site, it has those 400 amp cables. So we can really play around with things like that. We've got a lot more power to work with at the Monopoly site. So I was blown. Like I didn't know. I knew that they had headroom in them, but I didn't know they had that much headroom. That is like crazy to go from 115 to 148. But and if we had the power at site 2, dude, I would have clocked them all up. But we were just running at the red line at that site. Like we were actually at a point where like every 2 weeks or so, I was having to call the AADC guy to change out the fuses, because we kept blowing the fuses at the transformer. We haven't ever blown a fuse at the Monopoly 1 site, but the Monopoly 2 site, It was constantly needing fuse changes. Not in the wintertime. In the wintertime, everything ran great, but as soon as it heated up, like every 2 or 3 weeks, we were out there changing fuses.
Ethan, I think Sky Traver has a question. He has his hand
Yes,
raised.
yes, Winston, can you speak? Do you know how to turn on your mic? Here, I'll lower it. Maybe Winston. He might be having technical challenges. But yeah, Winston, if you have anything you would like to ask, please go to the free parking and type it out. I'm sure everybody there will be happy to answer any of your questions. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions there. All right. So yeah, like I said, I think I made all of you guys aware of the situation. It's just something that nobody could foresee, right? Nobody can predict the future. Nobody knew that Bitmain was going to come out with technology that was going to be twice as good as what we had available at the time. And what we did, we got the best technology that was available at the time. Unfortunately, these things happen. But again, it's not the end of the road. It's not a situation where, we just give up and we throw in the towel. This is a situation where we take a pause and we look for the next strategic move. And, like I said, we've got 3 plausible options that I can see right now in front of us. There may be more. Nobody knows the future. But in any case, we're not at the liquidation phase yet. So everybody can relax about that. We're not in a situation where, we're going to liquidate things. We're just in a pause phase. And when Bitcoin does get up to, 400, 500K, whatever it's going to top out at, I'm hearing crazy numbers now. My charts are saying crazy things now. Whatever it tops out at, there will be a really good return on the miners. When we eBay them, we'll be eBaying them for like, $4,000 a pop or something like that. It'll be a really good return on that. That being said, as things stand where they are right now, 64% return. And that's at Bitcoin at a $63,000 price. When Bitcoin goes to 600,000, you're at a 10x. That's 640. That's not factoring in the miners, right? So you sell the miners at like a 4x, Bitcoin at a 10x. I mean, it'll be a good return for you guys. So even if we pause now and we never get back into it, we never get back into earning more Bitcoin as rewards, I think you guys will be happy when Bitcoin tops out and you cash out, or at least when I advise you guys to cash out. You guys are free to do whatever you want to do. Hold on. For me, I don't know if I'm ever going to get rid of my Bitcoin now. I'll sell my cars. I'll liquidate any asset around me to pay bills or to generate capital, as long as I don't have to spend any of my Bitcoin. I'll do anything to avoid spending it. But thanks for all of you guys showing up, and I'm looking forward to getting Cobra up and running and getting in a situation where I don't have to worry for 10 days, 11 days, if enough coin is going to be generated to pay the electric bill. And somebody let off some fireworks with it. All right, weekend is starting early, I guess. All right, so I'm gonna sign off here. Hope you guys have a great weekend, and I will see you guys again next month. Right, we'll do the next AMA, and hopefully I'll have some really exciting things to share with you guys then. Like I said, I'm working night and day. I'm working on partnerships to get to a place where I've got teams of people and I can delegate work and things like that. And that should make things move exponentially faster than what just one person can do by themselves. So hope you guys are good, and have a great weekend.